They asked for aid, then learned how seriously humans take it. The galaxy was burning. Across distant stars, entire colonies were falling one after another. An old enemy had returned, a force so ancient and cruel that most believed it was only a legend. Their ships tore through defenses, their armies crushed worlds, and their hunger for conquest seemed endless. The Council of Alien Races, once proud and arrogant, now sat in silence. Their fleets had failed, their armies had broken, they had nowhere left to turn. For centuries they had ruled the stars with confidence. They had seen many wars, many rebellions, many threats, yet nothing had prepared them for this. No strategy, no alliance, no weapon could stop the enemy that had come back from the shadows of time. One by one, proud species knelt or were destroyed. Hope was fading and desperation was the only thing left. It was then, in their darkest hour, that someone whispered a dangerous idea. There was one race they had never dared to contact, a race that had vanished from the galaxy long ago. Stories of them were filled with warnings, with fear, with mystery. Some called them monsters, some called them saviors. All agreed on one thing: if humans returned, nothing would ever be the same again. The council argued for days. Some shouted that asking humans for help was madness. Others said there was no choice left. Their fleets were dust, their people slaughtered, their worlds on fire. Finally, with trembling voices, they agreed. A message would be sent. Not a message of peace, not a message of pride, but a message of begging. They would ask the humans for aid. The signal was crafted with care. It was not elegant. It was not strong. It was desperate. It carried a single cry: help us. We are dying. They sent it into the black void of space, into the direction where humans had last been seen. Then they waited. Days passed. Then weeks. The council grew restless. Many feared the humans were extinct, wiped out long ago. Others feared worse, that the humans had heard the message but chose to ignore it. And then something happened. Across the council's deep space scanners, strange signals appeared. They were faint at first, like whispers. Unknown codes, strange patterns, something old and heavy moving across the stars. The alien scientists studied the signals and froze. Their blood ran cold. It was human technology. Ancient, yes, but unmistakable. Humanity had heard the call. Panic spread through the council chambers. Some shouted that they had doomed them all. Others clung to hope, whispering that maybe humans would come as allies, not as conquerors. The air was thick with fear. They remembered old tales, stories told to children as warnings, stories of the time when humans fought the galaxy itself, when their ships blotted out suns, when their soldiers were called deathworlders because even their home planet was a place too cruel for most life to survive. The council leader stood before them all and tried to speak with calm, but his voice shook. We asked for aid. We will accept the cost, whatever it may be. And then the silence of space was broken. From the dark, massive signals filled the stars. A fleet was coming. No, not a fleet, a storm. The alien scanners trembled as colossal shapes emerged from hyperspace, larger than anything they had ever seen. Human warships, black and cold, glided into real space like shadows given form. They did not send greetings. They did not send threats. They came with silence. Their ships formed lines, precise and perfect, like blades ready to cut the galaxy apart. Alien eyes across dozens of systems watched in horror and awe. Humanity had returned. Finally, after long hours of waiting, one transmission came. It was simple, sharp, and filled with weight. A human voice, calm but terrifying, spoke across the galaxy. You asked for our aid. We heard you. The words echoed like thunder. No promises. No kindness. Just certainty. The council chambers fell into silence. Every alien present understood the truth. They had called upon the most dangerous force in history. They had awoken something that had been sleeping, waiting, watching. Outside, the human fleet moved into formation, engines glowing like angry suns. For the first time in years, the enemy that had burned the galaxy felt fear, because the humans were coming. And when humans came, they never came halfway. The galaxy had asked for aid. Now they would learn how seriously humans took it. The galaxy held its breath as the human fleet advanced. Silent, massive, and unstoppable, the ship stretched across the void like a wall of steel and fire. No alien fleet had ever moved with such perfect discipline. Every formation was sharp, every movement exact, like a single mind guiding thousands of vessels. Watching them was like watching a storm roll across the stars. The Council of Alien Races gathered again, their screens filled with images of the approaching armada. The ships were darker than night, covered in strange marks and scars that spoke of wars fought long before these aliens were even born. They carried weapons that could not be identified, engines that seemed older than the current galaxy order, and shields that glowed faintly with unknown energy. None of the humans spoke. They sent no greeting, no introduction, no attempt to explain themselves, only silence. That silence was heavier than any threat. The council members looked at each other with dread. They had begged for help, but now they wondered what kind of help they had truly invited. And then the first human ship entered orbit above the council's homeworld. It was so large it blotted out the sun for a moment, casting the capital city in shadow. Crowds of aliens filled the streets, staring up at the sky in terror and awe. Children cried. Elders whispered ancient warnings. Entire cultures had built myths around humanity's power, and now those myths stood real above them. Finally, a message came. A single human transmission cut across every channel. The voice was cold, steady, and without emotion. "You asked for aid. We are here." The words echoed through the council chambers. No promises of safety, no declaration of alliance, only fact. The aliens shivered. They had expected negotiations, debates, or conditions, but the humans wasted no time with such things. Before the council could even respond, the human fleet moved again. Smaller vessels detached from the massive carriers, swift and precise. They began to map the enemy's movements, scanning entire systems with frightening speed. In hours, they had learned what alien fleets could not discover in months of war. Their technology was sharper, their tactics brutal and exact. The aliens watched as the humans prepared for battle. Their warships shifted into new patterns, lines within lines, formations that no alien strategist could understand. Each ship moved like part of a living beast, coordinated beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Fear spread among the council members. Some whispered that they had not asked for aid. They had summoned a conqueror. What if, after the war, the humans refused to leave? What if this fleet never returned to its shadowed home? But there was no time for debate. The enemy appeared on the edge of the system, their own fleet burning with the confidence of past victories. They had crushed dozens of worlds already. They expected another easy kill. They did not know humanity. The human warships turned as one, facing the oncoming threat. The silence held for a heartbeat, as if the galaxy itself paused. Then, without warning, the humans struck. Weapons roared to life, but they were nothing like the galaxy had ever seen. Beams of light ripped across space, tearing through enemy shields as if they were paper. Missiles launched in silence, vanishing into the void before reappearing in sudden fire, carving enemy cruisers apart. Human ships moved like predators, surrounding, isolating, destroying. The enemy's confidence shattered. Their formations broke, their ships scattered. For the first time in centuries, they were afraid. And the humans did not stop. They hunted. They pursued every fleeing ship, cutting them down with ruthless precision. There was no mercy, no hesitation. When humans fought, they fought to end the war, not to prolong it. The council chambers shook with the shock of it. Alien leaders stared at their screens in disbelief. This was not aid, this was annihilation. The humans fought not like allies, but like executioners. In the cities below, aliens gathered in silence. They watched the sky burn as the human fleet tore the enemy apart. Some cheered in relief, others trembled in terror. One truth became clear to all. They had awakened something far more dangerous than the enemy they had feared. Hours later, the battle ended. The enemy fleet was gone, completely gone. Not one ship survived. The humans had destroyed them all. And then, as calmly as they had come, the humans spoke again. "You asked for aid. This is the beginning," the message ended. The alien leader sat frozen, unable to speak. They had wanted salvation. What they had received was a force that shook the galaxy to its core. The humans had arrived, and they were only getting started. The enemy had believed themselves untouchable. They had crushed dozens of worlds, swept aside fleets, and silenced entire civilizations. For years, no one had stood against them. But now, their arrogance had met something far older and far more dangerous: humanity. The human fleet did not rest after the first battle. They moved like a storm across the stars, hunting down the enemy wherever they hid. Their ships did not drift aimlessly or wait for commands. Every maneuver was exact, as if every captain shared the same mind. The aliens who had begged for help could only watch in awe and terror as humanity showed them what war truly meant. The first major campaign began in a system on the edge of council space. The enemy had built a fortress there, a stronghold that had resisted every alien attempt to take it back. The fortress hung above a ruined planet, its guns blazing, its shields unbroken. Entire fleets had died trying to break through. The council leaders whispered warnings to the humans, telling them the fortress was impossible to breach. The humans did not answer. They only moved. The fleet advanced in silence, cutting through the system like knives through flesh. Enemy patrols fell within seconds. Scouts tried to flee but were destroyed before they could even send warnings. When the main fortress finally realized what was coming, it was already too late. The first human strike was merciless. Beams of light, sharp and precise, lanced out and tore apart the outer defenses. Missile storms followed, exploding against shield after shield until the fortress shuddered under the impact. Enemy ships rushed to defend it, but the humans met them head-on. It was not a battle. It was an execution. The human ships moved in coordinated packs, isolating enemy vessels and destroying them with brutal efficiency. Their weapons hit harder, their armor held longer, and their strategies were like nothing the galaxy had seen. To fight the humans was like fighting death itself. No matter what move the enemy made, the humans were already there to counter it. In the council chambers, the alien leaders watched the battle unfold in horror and fascination. They had expected humans to help, yes, but this was something beyond help. This was dominance. Entire enemy squadrons were wiped out in minutes. The fortress, once thought invincible, was already beginning to crack. For the first time in their lives, the enemy commanders felt fear. Their fleets faltered, their formations broke. They tried to regroup, to resist, but the humans pressed harder. The humans never gave them a chance to breathe. When the fortress's shields finally collapsed, the humans did not hesitate. Strike teams descended, armored soldiers spilling onto the surface like shadows. They moved with terrifying speed, clearing entire corridors in seconds. Enemy defenders who had held off alien troops for years fell within minutes. The council's generals whispered among themselves. They had heard the old stories, but now they were seeing them with their own eyes. Humanity was not just a species of warriors. They were predators. And when predators hunted, they did not stop until everything was silent. Within hours, the fortress was gone. Explosions lit the planet below as human troops destroyed the last resistance. When the smoke cleared, nothing remained but ruins. The humans did not gloat. They did not celebrate. They simply returned to their ships and moved on. The message they sent afterward was short, the same as always. You asked for aid. We delivered. The council chambers fell into silence once more. Relief spread through some, but dread grew in others. They whispered questions they did not dare speak aloud. What if the humans never stopped? What if this aid turned into conquest? On the ruined fortress world, survivors whispered of the battle. They spoke of human soldiers moving like machines, their weapons cutting through walls, their eyes cold and merciless. They said the humans fought not just to win, but to erase. The enemy, once confident in their endless victories, now felt hunted. Their commanders gathered in secret, speaking in hushed voices of this new threat. They had thought humanity was extinct, a ghost of the past. Now humanity was real and they were furious, and so the enemy began to change. No longer did they charge into battle with arrogance. Now they retreated, regrouped, and tried to hide. But it was useless. The humans pursued. They always pursued. The council, watching all of this, began to wonder if they had unleashed something far worse than the ancient enemy itself. For every battle the humans won, the galaxy was reminded of a truth long buried. Humans did not fight wars. Humans ended them, and the first strike was only the beginning. The war should have brought comfort. The enemy was falling, their fleets scattered, their strongholds burning. The humans were winning every battle, turning defeat into victory, despair into hope. And yet, instead of peace, a new fear was spreading. The Council of Alien Races watched the reports come in day after day. Entire enemy fleets destroyed, fortresses erased, worlds liberated. Each victory came faster than the last. But there was no celebration, no warmth in the humans' work. They fought like machines, relentless and unstoppable. To the aliens, they looked less like saviors and more like a force of nature. Whispers spread in the council chambers. Some leaders praised humanity, calling them the guardians of the galaxy. Others were not so certain. What kind of guardians left nothing alive in their path? What kind of allies never paused, never rested, never spoke of peace? The human silence was as heavy as their firepower. Among the common people of the galaxy, stories grew. On one world, survivors told of human soldiers who moved through the ruins like shadows, their armor black and cold, their voices few, On another, children whispered that the humans' eyes glowed in the dark, that they never slept, that they were more like legends than flesh. Whether true or not, the story spread faster than the humans themselves. Soon, even the enemy spoke of them with fear. Captured prisoners trembled when asked about battles with humans. They said the humans came without warning, striking with impossible precision. They said the humans gave no chance for surrender, no mercy, no escape. They do not fight us, one prisoner said, his voice shaking. They hunt us. The council tried to remind themselves this was what they had asked for. They had begged for aid and humanity had answered. But at night, in the quiet moments, leaders asked themselves another question. What happens when the enemy is gone? The fear grew stronger when the humans began to take control of the war itself. Alien fleets were told to stand down. Their commanders ordered to wait while humans led the strikes. At first, the council resisted. They wanted to fight alongside their allies to show unity, but when they tried, the humans simply spoke a single sentence: "Stay out of our way." And the council obeyed. More than once, an alien fleet tried to join the humans in battle, only to find themselves overwhelmed and nearly destroyed. The humans had no patience for weakness. They did not protect the council's soldiers. They did not slow their pace for others. They fought on their own terms, and those who could not keep up were left behind. The galaxy was learning a lesson, and it was not the one they had hoped for. Humanity did not come to save them. Humanity came to end the war, and in doing so reminded everyone why they had been feared for so long. One night in the Grand Council chamber, the leaders gathered again. The air was heavy, the silence deep. They spoke quietly, afraid the humans might somehow hear. "We may have traded one enemy for another," one whispered. "We will survive the ancient enemy, yes. But will we survive the humans?" Others shook their heads. "We cannot betray them, not now. They would crush us as easily as they crush our foe." The arguments went on for hours, but no decision was reached. They were trapped by their own desperation. They had called the humans, and now they could not send them away. Meanwhile, out in the void, the humans continued their campaign. Another enemy world fell. Another fortress burned. Another fleet vanished into wreckage. Each victory was followed by the same cold transmission: "You asked for aid. We deliver." The words brought no comfort anymore. They were reminders heavy and sharp that the humans had not come out of kindness. They had come because someone had dared to call them, to disturb their long silence, and now the galaxy was learning the cost of that choice. In the streets of alien cities, citizens whispered about the future. Would the humans leave once the war was done? Or would they stay? Their black ships watching every world, their soldiers walking every city. No one knew, and that not knowing was worse than the war itself. Even the enemy, who once laughed at the thought of defeat, now whispered in terror. They no longer spoke of conquering the galaxy. They spoke only of surviving the humans. The war was almost over, but the galaxy did not feel safer. It felt smaller. It felt like every world was under the shadow of those cold black ships. And so the fear grew, stronger with every victory. The aliens had asked for aid and they had received it. But deep inside, they began to wonder if they had made a mistake far greater than their enemy's invasion. Because when humans answered a call, they never stopped until the silence returned. The war ended faster than anyone expected. The enemy, once feared across the stars, now lay in ruins. Their fleets were shattered, their strongholds broken, their leaders either dead or fleeing into the void. Where the council had once predicted decades of struggle, humanity had crushed the war in months. The galaxy should have celebrated. Songs should have filled the streets. Flags should have been raised in victory. But instead, silence spread. No one felt safe enough to cheer. For while the enemy was gone, the humans remained, their dark fleet hanging in the skies above liberated worlds. Their presence was heavy, their silence worse than any words. On the council's homeworld, the leaders gathered one last time. They were torn between relief and fear. The humans had saved them. That much was true. Without them, the galaxy would have burned. But at what cost? Entire star systems had been scarred by human weapons. Civilizations had seen humanity's power, and none could forget it. The council leader stood, his voice trembling as he addressed the others. "We are alive today because of them. But ask yourselves, will we still be alive tomorrow?" No one answered. They could not. Out in the stars, the humans began to withdraw their troops from the battlefields. They did not stay to rebuild, did not offer to guide the shattered planets back to peace. They simply left ruins behind, ruins and silence. On one world, a surviving governor approached a human commander and begged for help. The human only stared with cold eyes and said, "Defend yourselves next time." Then he left, his soldiers vanishing into the shadows of their ships. The galaxy was shaken. What kind of ally fought with such fire then simply walked away? What kind of savior reminded you that they would not save you again? The answer came slowly, whispered through fear. Humans were not guardians. They were reminders. When the last enemy fleet was destroyed, the humans called the council. Their message came through every channel, heavy and final. The voice was calm, but it carried the weight of 1,000 wars. You asked for aid. We gave it. The enemy is gone. Remember this. Never call us again unless you are prepared for the cost. We do not come as rulers. We do not come as friends. We come as humanity. And when we come, the war ends. And then, just like that, they were gone. One by one, the great human warships turned away from alien worlds. They slipped back into the void, their engines glowing faintly before fading into nothing. No goodbyes, no alliances, no treaties. Only silence remained, heavy and endless. In the days that followed, the galaxy felt strangely empty. The enemy was gone, but so too was the only force strong enough to stop them. The council leaders tried to reassure their people, speaking of freedom, of survival, of rebuilding. But beneath their speeches, fear remained. For everyone knew the truth. The humans were out there, somewhere in the dark, watching, waiting. Alien children whispered the stories to each other at night. How the humans came like shadows. How their fleets blotted out stars. How their soldiers never showed mercy. Some children were terrified. Others were inspired. And slowly, a new kind of myth was born. Humanity was no longer just a warning from the past. They were a legend of the present, a force too great to control, too dangerous to provoke. Among the council's soldiers, another kind of fear grew. Veterans who had fought beside the humans spoke of them with uneasy voices. They told of soldiers who walked through fire without hesitation, of commanders who treated war like a simple game of strategy, of fleets that destroyed entire armadas without pause. If they had turned on us, one general whispered, we would all be dead. And yet, despite the fear, there was also respect. The humans had done what no one else could. They had destroyed an enemy that had nearly consumed the galaxy. They had kept their word, brutal as it was. They had not stayed to rule, had not demanded tribute or territory. They had only left a warning. In the quiet that followed the war, the council finally understood the lesson. Humanity was not a weapon to be called upon lightly. They were not saviors, not conquerors, not guardians. They were something else entirely. They were a reminder of the galaxy's weakness, a reminder of what it meant to fight with everything, to fight until nothing was left. A reminder that survival always had a cost. And so, as the stars settled back into uneasy peace, the galaxy carried that memory like a scar. The enemy was gone, but a shadow remained. The shadow of humanity. And somewhere, deep in the endless dark, the humans watched, silent, patient, waiting for the next cry for aid. Because when humanity answered, the galaxy always learned the same lesson: be careful what you ask for.